Hey everyone, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and part 1 to What If Frieza Turned Good, the next Dragon Ball story, and final pre-made 3-year-old Google Photos saved, that's a lot to take in, project that I have. And after that, all Dragon Ball projects will be brand new. New made, not have to be zoomed in, all that fun stuff. This is the final one that is over 3 years old that I have yet to put here until now, touching upon Dragon Ball's most infamous villain and tyrant, and if he turned good. As I said, we are touching upon what if Frieza turned good. Now, for those not familiar, Frieza is Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, all of Dragon Ball media is the most infamous, not only villain, but tyrant in all of Dragon Ball media and games and whatever the frick else you want to say. And no one would ever expect that this guy would ever turn good. But when we get to the Tournament of Power, we finally see a shift in Frieza's character. The very Saiyan that he strove to stop from even becoming the legendary Super Saiyan, he ended up teaming up with and winning the Tournament of Power, teaming up with his worst enemy. And then in the Broly movie, he didn't care about immortality anymore and barely got his hands dirty at all, besides absolutely having to fight against Broly. I say fight, but it was more like a cakewalk for Broly. The point is, we have finally begun to see a shift. Maybe not so much in the manga, but even that has shown Frieza's beginning to get carefree. Now, this could just be part of Frieza's character, but to me, it seems like maybe a path to redemption, or at the very least, an anti-villain. And if you guys are not familiar, people like Moscow X, Salad Saiyan, Smug Stick, and all other kinds of what if YouTubers have touched upon the prospect, some very much so than others, of what if this tyrant either turned good, replaced Goku, or if he was reincarnated to be a good person. So today, we're going to get into the first part of my interpretation. And it's not going to be the prospect, storyline, and way you might think it's going to go. Let's begin. We open up. Goku is just about to tell Frieza to get down after knocking him down right whenever his attack's about to slice him. So Super Saiyan Goku yells to Frieza to get down. But this time, instead of seeing the disc come at him too late, the disc is a little bit farther away from Frieza. So he turns around just in time to see the disc and just in time to teleport out of the way of the attack. And he doesn't get chopped in bits. Now, Frieza, he cannot believe what he is just seeing. This Super Saiyan not only has been his greatest foe and has put him on the back burner this whole time and became the legend, but he wanted to stop fighting him, and then Frieza came up with the trump card, and then he just saved his life. Frieza doesn't get this at all. And on one side, this should be Frieza seeing that this Saiyan is outright mocking him. But no, Frieza feels something else. He feels gratitude? Frieza doesn't understand why this Saiyan, who he killed his best friend and is a mass genocide maker. And yet, this Saiyan just, even out of pure rage, just saved his life. And he doesn't know what to think. And he even questions Goku on this. But Goku says that it doesn't matter. He knows that Frieza's no longer a match for him. That's why he had to resort to childish tricks, especially stealing him from the best friend that he killed, which is just a disgrace. But he's never going to be one to want to see anyone killed, even if they're the rottenest person in the universe. And as much as Frieza should stay here to accept the destruction of this planet, he tells Frieza to just get away from him, and that he's getting off this planet whether Frieza likes it or not. And he would have rather left the planet than let Frieza be done in by his own attack. And Frieza is just completely thrown off. Again, all of him wants to think that this Saiyan is just mocking him, and to a degree he kind of is. But Frieza's sense of this new feeling of his, this gratitude, he can't explain it. It's very weird for Frieza to feel this. And he tells Goku to stop. But Goku's just getting angry at this point and says that he's not interested in anything else Frieza wants. But Frieza says Goku's right. He is no match for him. And he can't explain it, but he's honestly sort of glad that Goku saved his life, but even he is having trouble accepting the fact that from a Saiyan from the race that he subjugated and killed, that a Saiyan whose best friend he murdered saved his life. And he's kind of holding this at Goku right now and says that he's done fighting him. And as a token of saving his life, the least Goku could let him do is show him to his ship so that way he can get off the planet. Because there's no guarantees he's going to find his ship. Goku just stares at Frieza, long and hard, wondering if Frieza's telling the truth. But honestly, for someone like him to finally be seeing this or experiencing gratitude, Goku can understand why Frieza's probably having trouble feeling this kind of emotion. So, even though he's very, very on his guard, especially after Frieza threw a disc at him and almost chopped his head off multiple times, he takes it with a grain of salt, but allows Frieza to lead the way to his ship and properly help him with the controls because, Goku couldn't do it before. And with time to spare, they get to the ship. And at this point, Frieza could betray him. Frieza's thinking about just betraying the Saiyan and then just blowing him up with the ship and then just leaving the planet. But again, that feeling is just holding him from doing anything else. He also knows that he's beginning to understand that with this new feeling, that he really isn't a match for him. So even though he wants to betray Goku, what he tells himself is, let me show off how to properly run the ship, even if it's damaged, and that a Frieza Force ship cannot be destroyed this easily. And then, once the Saiyan finds himself comfortable out in space or on a new world, then I'll betray him. Something like that. So, Frieza gets the ship to work with time to spare, and the planet hasn't yet blown up. So, the course, I feel, would still be set for Yardrat. Even if it's not a Ginyu ship, I feel that closest planet nearby, something like that, would be for Yardrat. We can only infer that this would be a logical place to go. And it's the best course of action for the story, as you will later see. Once they get there, the Yardrats are completely and utterly scared because it's Frieza's freaking ship. And then Goku and Frieza get out of the ship, and the Yardruts are even more thrown off because it's a random guy who they think is a Saiyan that is with Frieza and is possibly here to take over the planet. But I'm going to take what I've taken out of the Tarble story and the manga and say that there's more to the Yardruts here than meets the eye. With Master Pubara, and he greets the two, and once hearing their story, he's more than happy to train Goku, but you can understand why the Yardruts would have almost complete and utter, not so much rejection, but suspicion towards Frieza. Even Frieza himself is not a good guy yet. He's just overcome with, the feeling of the fact that he was just saved. Even though, when Vegeta was saved, he felt it as a weakness. But for someone like Frieza, I feel that it would be a far different emotion. So, Goku begins the Yardrat training and picks up instant transmission. But the whole meditation and all that stuff we know that he wasn't into before, he just learns instant transmission and is getting ready to get back into the field of Super Saiyan and understand more about what it brings. But then he looks over to Frieza, who's just all on his own. And he goes over and talks to him and says, "Do you want to train with me?" Frieza's utterly surprised at this. The Yardratians rejected him. Goku rejected him even though Frieza felt gratitude. And now they're here. They haven't talked at all. And now Goku wants him to train? Frieza's just been on his own contemplating still of whether or not he should just blow up the planet with the Saiyan on it. Especially with his father out there. But Goku says that as much as he should be infuriated by Frieza, if Frieza seriously was, going to take him down, he would have done so on the ship. So Goku feels that he might have finally gotten through to Frieza, and that he's really not going to do anything. And that's not Goku mocking him. That's Goku being genuine. Like, he wants to train with Frieza because he feels he can finally trust Frieza. And maybe he can, maybe get a higher grade of power or form and help him with Super Saiyan and stuff like that. Since they know each other so well, at least for the time that they were fighting, which was quite a freaking amount of time. But Frieza just holds his hand out and says, "No, I'm not going to learn any silly Yardratian tricks," because he then states that his own evolution is far more than he needs to exceed him through a whole lifetime and beyond. And he's never trained a day in his life. There was never a need. But with Goku around, he's beginning to think that maybe he'll start picking up a few things. But before he says anything about what he wants to mean by that, he explains to Goku his makeup, what makes him who he is, and how his final form and everything was his main form. This right here is his base form. All his other forms, which he would then go on to explain, were his restricted first, second, and third forms, were the forms he used to fight against Goku's friends. And then he, everything that's led up to this point. And the 100% was improvised through his base and final form. And he then states that he's not alone. He has a brother and more family. He has a brother named Cooler, who has a higher form than him, a fifth form. But he once held the edge over his brother. But now with that form, he's gone off to a separate whole corner of the universe, and they might never see him, even if King Cold wanted to get him involved. And that brings Frieza to his father, King Cold, who has only been seen in his second form, but is still quite the threat after he passed the Empire on to Frieza. And Goku takes all this in and realizes, hey, Frieza's being genuine, telling about the backstory, and wants to stick to his own evolution, and that's fine. So Goku just practices with Super Saiyan. And I feel maybe Frieza would join in fighting with him, except I feel under the Yardratian's influence and the fact that Goku's right, because if he wanted to kill him, he would have done so by now. Frieza goes to 100%, and they get to learn more about each other and actually train, but it's still sort of brutal because the two are getting used to not being on, like, killing each other and fighting the absolute death on a dying planet. And before you say anything, Frieza training with Goku, does this mean that we get Golden Frieza? No. And I actually did this in my Vegeta Super Saiyan video. Which, don't worry, this is about Frieza, so we will be getting Golden Frieza. As a matter of fact, you'll be seeing him far earlier than in canon, but not right now. What you will be seeing is a perfected 100%, where Frieza can actually minimize the effects of 100%, like he talked about in the Tournament of Power, except way sooner. And he can actually use the form and it be dominant within his assets. Meanwhile, we all probably forgot about one key thing. Namek didn't explode yet, but it does. Sometime after Frieza and Goku escape the planet and almost land on Yardrat, maybe just landing on Yardrat, Namek does explode. And soon enough, an elite soldier informs someone that Namek has exploded and there's no signs of any life, not even Frieza. And a ship makes itself known in the atmosphere. King Cold has made his presence known and smiles because he knows that his son is not dead. And soon enough, everyone on King Cold's ship report a life signal somewhere far away. It's Frieza and the Saiyan. They're on the same planet, and King Cold only infers that the battle must have taken them off the planet before it blew up, or one of them escaped before the planet blew up and the other followed. Or if anything, the fight just happened to go there through space or something. But King Cold doesn't place too much hope on the Saiyan. After all, Frieza's his son. So, they set a course for Yardrat. And with that, and King Cold's army heading to Yardrat, Goku has ultimately gotten a bit of a better handle on Super Saiyan with Frieza around. He hasn't gotten major into the grades. I still feel that it would barely go through to grade 2, but he is close to that. And as for Frieza, he's completely maximized his 100% form. And I feel that maybe the Yardratians would actually give him some armor, or maybe he would have the power to fashion his own. Something like that. Like I said, he's still not learning any Yardrat techniques, but, it'd be cool to see him in armor. But they don't get to celebrate their new accomplishments or even new bond of rivalry because King Cold's ship enters. Will Frieza and Goku be able to stop King Cold and his army? Does King Cold actually have more power that even we do not know of from other sources that will be explored here? What about Cooler? Will he ever show up? And since all of this is different, how will Future Trunks, the androids, and Vegeta, and all that other stuff on Earth go with ultimately no Mecha Frieza and a different venture for the king of the Frost Tyrants? I'll see you guys in part 2.